Hello, everybody. Today we are going to review Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. And I didn't even realize this, but in the actual Quantumania part is the Ant-Man title, which I think was kind of cool. Didn't really realize that until the end of the film. So obviously we have Paul Rudd coming back as Scott Lang or Ant-Man, Evangeline Lilly coming back as Hope Van Dyne the Wasp, Michael Douglas, who's Dr. Hank Pym, and Michelle Pfeiffer, who is Janet Van Dyne. And we obviously have some, well, somewhat new characters. I guess Catherine Newton plays Cassie Lang, his daughter, but she's been... Was she in the second movie? I can't remember. Was she, or maybe she was in all three. She could have just been really young in the first one. She must have been in the second movie, I would think. When did the second Ant-Man even come out? Let's just see. Who played Cassie in the other ones? Yeah, I'm just interested to see who played Cassie in the other movies. Because I know his daughter's been in all three in some sense, right? She must have been. Just who played her. Or was she even in? Yeah, okay. Abby Ryder Forston played Cassie in the second movie. And who played her in the first one, because she was just a kid. Oh, maybe it's... Oh, Ant-Man came out in 2015, so who played Cassie in this movie? Let's just see. Oh, Abby Ryder Forston. Interesting. So the actress just changed in the second one. Or in the third, for the third movie. That's kind of odd. Because when was Abby Ryder Forston born? She's got to be... She must be old enough to play the part by now, I would think. Let's just see. Oh, okay, maybe she wasn't, because she was only born in 2008. 2018. Yeah, I guess. Damn, I guess she wouldn't have been, because she would have been, what, like 10 in 2018? So I guess for the timeline, it wouldn't make sense for her to be that young anymore, right? Because 2018 she would have been what? How old would she have been now? Jeez, it's hard to think. 2008, that seems so late to me now. But 2023... Oh, jeez, I can't type. Minus 2008. Oh, she would have only been 15, so I guess they needed somebody older, a little bit older, to fill the shoes of where this is in the timeline for the third movie. Makes sense, I suppose. So I guess this would have been... Catherine Newton's first appearance in an Ant-Man movie, or Marvel movie in general, I think, right? From the looks of it anyway, it seems like that's the case. Oh, she was in that Freaky movie too with, okay, cool. And she was in Mad Men. Interesting. So she's had quite a few pretty big roles. Detective Pikachu as well. Cool. Now that I'm done talking a little bit about the actors and actresses, also Jonathan Majors coming in playing a big role, King the Conqueror. Bill Murray played Lord Kylar. William Jackson Harper was Quaz. And Caddy M. O'Brien, I believe, was Gentora. I think was like the main, kind of like the main characters. And then we had some appearances by some old cast members. Let's just see. The one who played... was it Hornet in the first one, I think? Oh, come on. He's got to be here somewhere. Can't tell me he's this far down. Good lord. That seems insane. Well, he had a bigger part than that. God. Oh, he was uncredited. So Corey Stoll, who I guess was kicked into the quantum realm by Ant-Man in the first movie, and ends up becoming MODOK. So I can't remember what the acronym stood for now. Oh my god, I just saw this last night. Basically saw it last night. Interesting that I can't remember what the acronym stood for. Anyway, so he was MODOK, which I guess was supposed to be possibly the main villain, or should have, I guess, maybe been the main villain in this movie. But he kind of reminded me of the villain from Crash Bandicoot a little bit, just from his looks. Uh, but this movie was by far, now I can't really remember how the first two Ant-Man went. I think I remember the second one probably better than the first. But I am going to go back and continue watching the Marvel movies from where I left off, so I can watch some of the TV shows to see how it all ties into one another. But I would say this was by far probably the most visually stunning Ant-Man movie that there's been so far. And it was just cool to see a new universe within Earth, knowing that there were people within the Earth in a different realm that didn't know Earth existed and didn't really understand humans. Like there were quantum people and Earth people, which is a weird concept to think of, but so I guess Cassie had been sending signals down to the quantum realm for a very long time, and now that was it her grandmother, I guess, would have been out? Right, because, yeah, Michelle Pfeiffer played Janet Van Dyne, and then Evangeline Lilly played Hope Van Dyne, right. So, Scott and Hope are together, and I believe that Hank and Janet are together, but they've been separated for 30 years, right? Because that's how long she'd been down in the quantum realm. Now, she's been keeping some pretty big secrets, obviously, from her family, due to the fact that Kang the Conqueror is trapped in the quantum realm, and he's been destroying certain timelines, I guess, where others had existed. He was trying to wipe them out. I'm not really sure why. I guess maybe to prove that he was the strongest, I suppose. Now, I guess in the film he's supposed to be the strongest Kang the Conqueror there is, but it seemed like he was the outcast in this one. And now that we know there's going to be several others, I believe it was one of the cutscenes, wasn't it? Right? So there are two cutscenes. I believe the one was, yeah, showing all the different Kang the Conquerors from all the different timelines, and then the other one kind of sets up for season 2 of Loki. Now I'm going to have to watch season 1 to really understand that, I think, a little bit better, as to who those characters are, and how that timeline kind of ties in with this timeline, because that's going to be very interesting to see. And it was also awesome to see, obviously, Cassie kind of doing her own thing, as I guess this kind of goes forward. My buddy told me that she's going to be part of the Young Avengers, so that makes more sense as to why she had a much bigger role in this film. And she's made her own suit, and she obviously has, she's obviously a very smart kid. So I guess, I'm not really sure how old she's supposed to be in this film, but I mean, Catherine Newton's in her 20s, so maybe she's supposed to be like a, kind of like young adult, like I would say probably like 18, 19 in this movie, maybe young adult, like early 20s, I suppose. Now, obviously, Captain Marvel is going to be part of the Young Avengers, but she's been around since basically the beginning, like in the 80s, right? But I guess because she's more on the immortal side of things, it would make sense that she's still young, right? Even though, in hindsight, she'd be older than them all. But, yeah, it was just cool to see this world and see the characters that we're able to play in this movie, like Bill Murray. I was just excited to see him in this movie, and the soundtrack for this movie, like even the trailer soundtrack having the Elton John song, I think worked perfectly. And the introduction of the quantum people in that realm, at least the ones that lived, because Kang took out quite a few of them. And obviously we got to see Giant Man for real this time, not just like the giant Ant-Man. and it turns out that Cassie can do anything her dad can do, so she ends up turning giant as well, and they just kind of take out Kang. Now, it wasn't easy. Um, Hope had to come back in through the portal at the very end and throw him into like his own, I guess kind of like the engine that controlled his ship. It was like an orb. It was controlled by energy, and when when Janet was down there, she was trying to help him get back, but then when she was putting the core into his ship, she realized what he actually was, so she tried to hold him down there by blowing up the core, and then Kang makes us deal with Ant-Man that he won't kill his daughter if he goes and gets the core for him. So Ant-Man has to go down there and get the core and shrink it back down to normal size, and then they have to try to get out of there. Obviously, after it seems that Cassie is in danger, not just from Kang, but also from MODOK too. But then MODOK changes teams at the very end and helps him actually defeat Kang. And then he kind of makes a joke that he died an Avenger, and Ant-Man goes, "Yeah, you made it. You're on the team right before MODOK dies." So that was kind of a funny moment. But I felt this movie was more serious, which is, I feel like, what they need to start doing as they move forward. Because I think now with the way DC is going to be doing things and going in a little bit of a darker direction, I feel like it would be smart for Marvel to maybe do that, because they've kind of been, over the last couple of years, I feel like they've kind of been comedic. Now, there's nothing wrong with having the comedy in there, but if that's what every movie is going to be, like the copy and paste sort of thing, I think that's going to get pretty dry pretty quick. You kind of need to have a balance, right? Like Thor Love and Thunder worked perfectly. That was my opinion of it. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I feel like this movie took a more serious approach, and that's good. Kind of have that balance back and forth, right? Like, one could be comedic with the action, and then one has to be serious with a little bit of comedy. Like, serious action, a little bit of comedy, and one could be comedy with the action. It just kind of have that balance. It just works better, I feel. What else was there about the quantum realm, I guess? Not too much, other than that Kang was basically the ruler and kind of made the rules as he was down there, because they knew how powerful he was, and he could basically destroy the quantum realm itself, I suppose, if he really wanted to. But my God, I think this movie definitely showed the full potential of Ant-Man, like how strong he actually can be on his own. Even though he was kind of getting beat up a little bit at the end of the movie. I didn't know Paul Rudd had that good at boxing skills, because I know that what's his, oh my God, so many names to think of between characters and real names. I know that Jonathan Majors is going to be in the new Creed movie, so he was pretty ripped for this movie too, and kind of showing off his boxing movie physique, but Ant-Man was giving it to him, I gotta admit, so I'm kind of interested to see where Creed 3 is going to lead, because I was making the joke with my buddy, I'm like, geez, he could barely outbox Ant-Man, how's he going to do against Adonis Creed? But I guess we'll see. And then he ends up getting thrown back into his own orb, and who knows where he actually went, because with all these timelines and stuff, and he might just be trapped inside his own engine, basically, the orb that controls the portals between timelines, I guess, was basically what he was trying to accomplish, right? So what else was I going to say? So yeah, I don't really know what's going to happen to him, whether he's dead or whether all these other Kangs are going to end up trying to go looking for him, sort of thing. I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see what happens. What else was there really? I don't think there was too much. I guess other than obviously the joke between is it Hank? Yeah, Hank and Janet, where they were. I guess she slept with Lord Kryler when she was down in the quantum realm, and obviously Hank had slept with somebody else because it had been 30 years, so they thought each other was, well, definitely Hank thought that Janet had died before they found her in the quantum realm, that's for sure. And I guess Janet just said that she had needs while she was down there, so she was with him for a little while, which was kind of funny, but Hank said it wasn't it wasn't you, so it wasn't the same with the other woman. um, so I guess they kind of forgave each other for that, obviously, because how would you know, right? It's been such a long span of time, right? Especially if you were on Earth, you would definitely think the other person was dead. Um, Now there were uh, some pretty cool quantum people for sure, I would say. Um, Probably the one that was probably the two that really stuck out, obviously, were um, the guy with the sunbeam basically for a head, and then the one that had like no holes. That was like he was basically made of goo. And then at the very end, when he got shot up, he actually was able to transform and kind of like just absolutely just destroy a big group of people by like sucking them into himself. And yeah, it was just very interesting. And they had a very badass leader, I believe. Gentora was her name, and everything was just alive down here. Like the buildings were alive. Um, Most of the creatures that were floating around were somehow alive. And yeah, I believe it was Gentora, and she was just absolutely badass. So I hope to see her in another movie because I don't think she was. Yeah, right. So it was Gentora. Yeah, she was a pretty badass character in this movie. So I hope to see her in some future movies as well, because I feel like they really should keep going back and forth between like Earth and the quantum realm. And then Ant-Man's kind of in his own head at the end of the movie talking about like he defeated Kang, but Kang also said that if he didn't make it out of the quantum realm, something bad was going to happen and a whole bunch of people were going to die. So now Ant-Man's worried about that. So I'm kind of interested to see whether he's going to have to go back in to the quantum realm and even further to wherever they had put Kang and maybe try to save him and get him out. I don't really know how this is going to all work out, but I'm very interested to see if there is even going to be another Ant-Man movie. I would feel like there was going to be. I was getting a little worried at the very end when Paul Rudd was getting beat up. I'm like, no, don't tell me that he's going to die here. We can't. That can't be the end of Ant-Man, right? Let's just see. Upcoming projects too. Untitled Ghostbusters sequel. Oh, Avengers: The Kang Dynasty. Okay, in 2025. Interesting. Okay, so I guess it is going to have Jonathan Majors back in it as Kang. Oh, and Haley Steinfeld. Okay, so I really got to watch Hawkeye now too. Cool. And Catherine Newton's going to be back as Cassie Lang. Awesome. Okay, so that movie's going to be really good. And then Ghostbusters Afterlife sequel. Oh, cool. It has the cast in it. Dope. Okay. Well, now I'm kind of getting off topic, aren't I? Anyway, I gave this movie a 10 out of 10. I thought it was more than deserving of that. Now I know, I would say that this, honestly, the Ant-Man series, if I'm remembering correctly so far, I would say probably Guardians of the Galaxy is my favorite out of the Marvel movies, and then Thor. I feel like that series has done justice for most of it. And now Ant-Man. With this movie, I would say Ant-Man's my third favorite series so far in the Marvel Universe. Don't get me wrong, Iron Man was great, but I don't think it was my favorite out of all of them. Just because I felt like a couple of movies were lacking a little bit more than some of the other ones, but that's just what it is. Not every movie can be perfect, right? Sometimes it just feels like filler, I feel. But I feel like all these movies have kind of been, at least with those three series, they've kind of been authentic, and none of them really felt like filler too much. Maybe the second Thor movie, but I mean, there's been 4 of them, right? So to say that that wasn't one of the better series would be kind of blasphemous, I think. But yeah, 10 out of 10 for this movie, and I will see you guys in the next review. Bye-bye for now.